Hi everyone, so now we're going to look at Ketu in the 10th house and Rahu in the 4th house. And as before, I shall be giving you indicators for the birth chart and also for what could occur during the dashas of these two shadow planets. So, starting here and looking at this whole dynamic of Rahu in the 4th and Ketu in the 10th, we see it's a cardinal axis placement again. So this is a very important lifetime. Every lifetime, as I say, when we take birth as human beings is very important. But this is particularly so. Why is that? Because you've had lifetimes of being a really important, very special person. You may have been very prominent in your career. You may have been, you could have been a corporate boss. You could have been the head of a huge household. You could have had anything which absolutely gave you status and importance. However, that remains a subliminal memory, and therefore you are continually trying to push yourself into prominence. But this lifetime, you must find a way to go inwards and not to seek to please people, but to please yourself. It's a lifetime when you need to get in tune with your inner needs, when you need to put family before career, where you need to be concerned with your own culture and not maybe, wider cultures. You need to be concerned with the home, with your land, with your place in this world that is in your heart, rather than trying to be somebody that you are not. Okay, so it's very much a work-life balance. It's all about, you need to have your career, obviously, but you must avoid putting undue emphasis on this side of life. So let's now just look at how this will actually work out in a bit more detail. So, if you have Ketu in the 10th house of your chart, then you have a memory of many past lifetimes of having a really prominent position in your career. And as I've said, this can give you enormous self-confidence in your work. This is not a placement for shying away from new opportunities. You tend to grasp them with, sort of both hands, and you often find you get amazing opportunities. But something always happens. It's a strange position. Something always happens that sort of takes the rug from under you, and you find that you easily become disillusioned. So you do get the power and you absolutely get status, but you're not satisfied with it. It doesn't matter who you become. If you become the prime minister, you will never be satisfied with that. Okay? And that is because you are now moving towards this 4th house emphasis in this incarnation. So what sort of work fields might you be attracted to with Ketu here? Well, obviously that will depend on the sign here more than anything. But in general, when we have our Ketu here, we are naturally inclined to those sort of careers that fit with this shadow graha. So things in relation to history, to maybe archaeology, to the past, to research in some way, maybe even detective work, spy work at another extreme, but something which is, which is allowing you to really dig deep and find secrets. That's what you would like to do. And of course, you are naturally enormously, fond of the occult and astrology and everything to do with mystical things. And you may try to make a living from this, and it may work out and it may not. It just depends on the other grahas involved. All right? But you do find enormous opportunities in your career from strange places and strange individuals sort of popping up out of the blue all the time. And this would absolutely give you a multifarious career path. Okay, by that I mean that you won't just have the one job. You will more or less hop from job to job to job and career path to career path all your life. Okay, because you seek change and because change seems to seek you in this area of your life. And you may also have connections with foreign issues as well, obviously, because K2 has that signification. Okay? On the more negative side, there can be some sort of major concerns, with a boss. You are far better working on your own with this position because you don't do well if when you are not the boss. You can have a lot of even sort of defamation sometimes where you have people working against you. Why is this? Well, that's because of the sixth house aspect here. So this particular aspect here, okay, the ninth aspect of K2 on the sixth house of enemies can give enormous amount of enemies and backstabbing and all sorts of undercover stuff going on in your career. That's why you are far better working for yourself. It works out far better with this position, if you can, of course. And then the aspect on the second house gives an urgency for earning money. There may be some family issues where you become the main breadwinner and things like that. Okay, there's an urgency to earning money and there's a few difficulties from office politics as well. And there may be health issues which really impact on your career. Okay, this is something which is very common with this position. And this can happen again out of the blue all of a sudden. But, particularly when you've got a graha here and you go through that dasha or you go through the dasha of K2 itself. Okay, so it's not a negative placement at all, but the whole purpose of it is that you become disillusioned with your work if you don't find this work-home, balance. And if you become unbalanced, which is very easily done here, and you put all your energy, which is so easy for you to do, 24/7 into your work, then things become completely unbalanced and you may even have a nervous breakdown. It could easily lead to mental health concerns. Okay, so you must find a work-home balance. All right, so now let's move on to Rahu in the fourth house. Okay, so let's move on to consider Rahu in the fourth house of your chart. Now, as I've mentioned, the biggest karmic impact here is from a lifetime spent, or many lifetimes spent as the big gun person, to a more private individual in this lifetime. And it's a hard shift. It's a very hard shift to make, but you will make it. And particularly during your Rahu period, you'll be forced to make it. So the idea is to try to de-emphasize your career, to try to do things where you can emphasize your home life more. And there are ways in which you will be inclined to do this. E.g., you may tend to work from home, and that will be very, very positive for you. As well as being out in the world, working from home will be excellent for you. Okay, you do have some very clear mother issues here, by the way, which you need to shift and which will be there from very early on in life, obviously, but will be hard to shift if you spend all your time hiding from these issues in your career. So you need to deal with a maybe dominating mother. You need to deal with the issue in a very respectful way. And because you do have a very strong karma here that involves looking after your parents later in life, and you must fulfill it. It's your duty. Okay, so I'm not trying to preach here. I'm just saying these are the issues that may occur. Okay, now some other issues are that this inclines you to be a very secretive person. Okay, despite your wonderful career or careers, And by the way, did I mention that it's often a placement of a person who goes into the media and who becomes an actor or an actress or, some such media career? Okay, why is that? Well, that's because you like to hide yourself. And when you're an actor or when you're an actress, you're not yourself anymore. So it's an ideal career in some ways for this placement. But you need to come home to yourself more. If you're not yourself in public, who are you? If you're not being authentically yourself, who are you? That's what this particular Rahu wants you to find out. Who are you really? Do you really know yourself? Do you really know your inner needs? Well, you need to find out in this lifetime. And that will obviously necessitate you having some time away from this this area here, and spending more time alone, spending more time in the seclusion of your own home environment. Okay, and another big issue here is actually providing for a good sort of family life, okay, that you need. It's not just the fourth house, is not just about your early childhood. It's about your own happiness. It's about your home, your land as you grow up, your vehicles. And it's a very important house. And you need to put a lot of effort, a lot of emphasis on making this particular area of life work. It isn't going to work easily. And as you become more disillusioned, you have more problems with your bosses and in the work situation, then you will move towards this area more as you get older, okay? And again, it depends when you have the Rahu Dasha, okay? Because as soon as you go into that Rahu influence, okay, for that time period, and again, if this happens early on in life when you're very young, well, wow, you're going to have major crisis there with the mother. You're going to have foreign travel. You're going to have major moves happening, a lot of upheaval in your early life. It's a bit easier if this would happen sort of midlife-ish, 30s, 40s, okay, when you can make a definite decision that you need to de-emphasize this side of your life and you need to emphasize your home life and your landed property and making this an important and central part of your life. Okay. Now, as I say, it is all about the home life balance and what can shift it, and this is particularly during the Rahu Dasha, may be some sort of a crisis. It may be a family death. It may be some sort of accident or something which occurs. Not always accidents, actually. I would say it's more to do with a death or a loss, which forces you to move somewhere else, to reallocate, and therefore whatever you have built up in your career shifts. And that's an absolutely crucial, sort of turning point in your life. And it's meant to be. It's nothing to be afraid of, okay? Because you do have the fears of losing your status, losing the adulation or the the adoration of your fans if you're like a well-known person, which you may be with this placement. But you should not be afraid of that, because ultimately this is what you have taken birth for, and you will never be satisfied, no matter how famous you become, no matter how wonderful your career is. You will never be satisfied until you turn here into the fourth house concerns and you really gather an inner strength and an inner belief in your own capabilities. Okay, so I do hope that was a useful video for you all, and I look forward to posting another video soon. Okay, goodbye for now.